All right, a good day to all. Sam here with you. We are kind of mid-morning here, Thursday, April 5th, and did our polling of the members, and the voting was tallied, and one of our two today will be NEO to the US dollar. So I've got it here, NEO to the US dollar tether here on Binance. That's where most of the volume is, so thought we'd dig in here. Now, on Binance here, we can get the full history, and all I've done over here on the left is just wick off some prior highs as we've essentially returned all the way back to this level. So we've made a full round trip coming all the way back to these prior pivots here and just wicking those off as potential support. And you can see we're actually just trading literally right here on this prior pivot high the first day it hit Binance. So full round trip. This here, I'm inclined to just call this a WXY. We don't need to dig back through this, but here's what matters is we dig into this last move down here. So let's zoom in. Get down here so we can look working from our X coming down. Let's reset that. So we get a very nice five-wave structure with pretty subdivision. It's a little shallow for the two, but it's there. We get our 3, 4. Then I get my 5 down into to complete that, what I have labeled as an A wave. Assuming we've got the X in, now we're looking for the second ABC. So with that subdivision here, boy, it's hard to find a count other than this that brings us down into an A wave. We get our ABC into this pivot here, and then we're trying to get a read on where we are in this final leg, if indeed it is the final leg. And it's been fairly technical so far. We come down here and we get a nice 1. Here's our 2. Here's the big move into a 3. And I put a channel on this just to give it a little bit of structure. So as I would with any five-way structure, just pulling from the 2 high, 2 pivot up here to our 3 low, I get a nice little ABC into my 4 right to the 38.2, exactly where we'd expect the 4. And it looks like we're pushing down here to complete another five-wave structure. So the potential is here for this entire sequence to be completing. Now we'd be getting below this was our the day it hit Binance. We'd be coming down to some pretty substantial lows all the way down here, coming down to $40. But just taking the algo projection from this swing to the 38, we get our first target here. This green line here, well, that's working all the way back from the largest swing high to the swing low, as I showed you when we first look at it. That's working off of this pivot here. So swing high, swing low, here's the 618 on the front run, and here's that. So we get a bit of a cluster down here, a confluence zone that's from 43.35 to 45.97. So, I mean, a pretty nice target zone where we've got good confluence. We also have the secondary target here, the negative 618 coming into play just on the other side of the larger algo target. So the algos that sold it there have been sitting short through this whole ride and approaching their targets. So let's get down in here to this last leg. Get this on auto and have this reset for me. There we go. So in that, so I can look here. So same thing we would do, right? Usually same process, right, guys? As I try and tell you, it's the power of this is doing the exact same thing the exact same way every single time, which is easier said than done. But here it is for you. So I'm getting additional confluence down here. So I've got this little pocket down here where I'm getting some good confluence here. So I've got my structural support of my channel. I've got my algo target here swinging 2 to 3 from the 38. There's my negative 23. And then I've got the 100%, very common target for the 5th to reach 100% the length of the 1. So just taking the swing of 1, right, here it is, projecting from the 4, looking for that relationship, that 1-to-1 relationship here. So I get a nice little confluence pocket here, all lining up right here. Let's call it, if we're front running here, we'd call it just under 40. Nice looking pivot zone down here as a potential turn on the market. So now, obviously, we're trying to pick the low, right? So not much I mean, we're coming up to $40, so we're trying to pick the pivot low. So you could certainly make a strong case that the better way to trade this is wait for this to complete, look for a reaction to come off of this pivot in 5 waves, and then just wait and take the first retracement. That would be the more conservative way to take it. Nothing wrong with that. You're not leaving much on the table, because whatever we get here, there will inevitably be a second wave, a retrace, the profit taking of those that get that turn. That sets up the 2 wave, and if it's legit, and if we are going to start a new trend, then we should come out of that with a break here. So we get this break of the pattern here of lower lows and lower highs. We get our sequence here. We want to see it in 5. Retrace, we get a lower, we get a higher low followed by a higher high. Right? That would set us up as a 1-2 going into the 3, start of a new trend, right? So it remains to be seen. That's what we're looking for as this continues to work its way lower. Some sort of a pivot here. So we have good symmetry. We have all of it lining up here. So it's hard, you know, not to argue with this as a resolution point. Maybe that's a better way to think of it. So if you're a bull on NEO relative to the dollar, and you like the project, and we know this is a major project, this symmetry here is all very strong. So too soon to be a buyer, in my view, even though you are coming to this long-term support. Now, just because this target is down here doesn't mean we must go down there, of course. That's just a reasonable target. It would finish this structure here, this 5-wave sequence, and give us that completed C, the completed Y, and the completed 5th of that C wave. So really, it's you know, trader's choice as to whether or not you want to take a bite at it down here. Of course, you'd want to keep the size modest as you're trying to pick that low. But coming off of that, right, you know, you get much better confirmation when you see what you get. Do we get 5 or do we get 3 and then roll over yet again? Right, so of course, we do have this larger target down here at 32. So initial buy, if you're looking for the buy side, might be, you know, right around 40, as you'd want to front run this just to be sure you got a fill. If it rolls over again, secondary add could be down here, you know, if you want to give it that much room, if you're not just going to take a tight stop on the other side of the 100, which is what I would suggest. Why write it down unless you want to be long and you're willing to take that drawdown? Your secondary add could be down here around 34. Let's call it 33 and change. For a secondary add, yet again, so you'd be averaging in your price. So if we split that difference, you'd have roughly a fill between the two, depending on your size, looking for that reaction, right? And then if you get it, right, well, then you couldn't be any better positioned. Then your reload zone is off of the first retrace. Now you can tighten up your stop. For me, I'm going to break even there, waiting for that retrace and then looking for the 3rd place to add, looking for that pattern to break, right? The higher high, higher low. So that's what I see there. No action at the moment. I would be waiting for that to get more clarity. And do we come down here in 5? I don't know if we've got any divergence, but I'd be looking for divergence here. Looks like this was our peak for the 3. So I'd watch for it. 1 for the watch list, probably nothing to do just yet. But again, of course, we could double bottom down here. We don't know. But that's what I would be waiting for. So on the watch list, I'd want to be alerted. You know, if we break this low, I'd want to be alerted, and then I'd be looking for that entry just a little bit lower. Okay, guys, that's all I got for NEO.